The moment Rowland stepped into the dance floor studio, he felt like an imposter. All 6'2" of him, dressed in a three-piece Tom Ford suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent, surrounded by mirrors that reflected his obvious discomfort. The receptionist smiled warmly, clearly accustomed to nervous first-timers. "I'm here for private lessons," Finn said, his voice carrying the confidence that had helped him build Rowland Maritime into a shipping empire worth billions, even as his feet remained stubbornly planted near the door. "Of course, Mr. Rowland. Your instructor will be with you shortly." The receptionist's eyes showed no surprise at his name, which was a relief. The last thing Finn wanted was someone treating him differently because of his wealth. He checked his watch, a habit more than a necessity. Time was something Finn had always controlled meticulously, but lately it seemed to be slipping away. In 6 weeks, his best friend Connor would be getting married, and as the best man, Finn was expected to lead the wedding party in the first dance. The problem: he danced with all the grace of a cargo container in rough seas. "Mr. Rowland." Finn turned to find a woman standing behind him, her honey-brown hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. She was petite but carried herself with the posture of a ballerina, and when she extended her hand, her grip was surprisingly firm. "I'm Harper Hayes. I'll be your instructor." Harper's green eyes held his gaze directly. There was no fawning or excessive friendliness, just professional courtesy. Finn found himself unexpectedly relieved. "Finn Rowland, thanks for fitting me in on short notice." "We specialize in emergency dance intervention," she said with a small smile. "Your assistant mentioned a wedding, my best friend's." "I'm the best man, and apparently that means I need to know how to waltz without causing bodily harm." Harper laughed, the sound genuine and bright in the quiet studio. "Well, let's get started then. We have 6 weeks to transform you from a potential hazard into Fred Astaire." "I'd settle for doesn't step on toes," Finn replied dryly. She led him to a private studio, a spacious room with hardwood floors that gleamed under soft lighting. Floor-to-ceiling mirrors lined one wall, and Finn fought the urge to loosen his tie as he watched his reflection. "First, I need to see what I'm working with," Harper said, connecting her phone to a small speaker system. "Let's start with how you naturally move to music." Before Finn could protest, the room filled with the sound of a classical waltz. Harper stood before him, waiting. "I don't." Finn began, feeling ridiculous. "Everyone can dance, Mr. Rowland. Some just haven't found their rhythm yet." "Finn," he corrected, "and I'm fairly certain I was born without rhythm." Harper smiled patiently. "Finn, then, and nobody is born without rhythm. Your heart beats in time, doesn't it? We just need to help the rest of you catch up." She held out her hands, and reluctantly, Finn stepped forward. Her right hand felt small in his left, and when he placed his other hand on her waist, he was surprised by how solid she felt beneath the simple black dance top she wore. "Now the waltz is in 3/4 time," Harper explained. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Think of it as a box your feet are drawing on the floor." Finn nodded, focusing intensely on the steps she demonstrated. His first attempts were stiff and mechanical, his eyes fixed on their feet. "Eyes up," Harper instructed gently. "Look at your partner, not the floor. The floor isn't going anywhere." "Neither will my feet if I don't watch them," Finn muttered, but he raised his gaze to meet hers. "Better. Now loosen up your frame a bit. Dancing isn't a business negotiation." Finn's eyebrows rose. "How do you know what my business negotiations are like?" Harper laughed. "Well, are they typically this rigid?" "Fair point," Finn conceded, feeling a smile tug at his lips despite himself. For the next hour, Harper guided him through basic waltz steps, offering corrections with a directness he appreciated. By the end of the session, Finn had managed to complete several turns without stepping on Harper's feet, which she assured him was excellent progress for a first lesson. "Same time Thursday?" she asked as they finished. Finn nodded, surprised to find himself not dreading the next session. "I'll be here." "Wear more comfortable shoes next time," Harper advised, eyeing his Italian leather Oxfords, "and maybe something you can move in more easily." As Finn left the studio, he found himself replaying moments from the lesson, not the steps or instructions, but the way Harper's eyes crinkled when she laughed at his clumsy attempts, and how her hands had firmly guided him back into position each time he faltered. For the first time in months, he'd spent an hour not thinking about quarterly projections or acquisition strategies. It was refreshing. The following Thursday, Finn arrived at the studio in dark jeans and a navy cashmere sweater, dress shoes exchanged for leather sneakers. Harper's approving nod made him inexplicably pleased. "Much better," she said. "Now you look like someone who might actually enjoy dancing rather than enduring it." "Let's not get ahead of ourselves," Finn replied. Today's lesson built on the basics they'd covered, adding turns and more complex footwork. Finn found himself less self-conscious about the proximity required for the dance, his hand now finding Harper's waist with comfortable familiarity. "You're a quick study," Harper observed as they completed a series of turns without mishap. "I have a good teacher," Finn responded, surprising himself with the sincerity behind the words. Harper smiled, a hint of color touching her cheeks. "Next week we'll add some variations." "The wedding is still 6 weeks away." 5 now, Finn corrected. "Connor and Elise are getting married at the Langham Hotel. Big affair, about 300 guests. Sounds lovely, and nerve-wracking for someone who thinks they can't dance." "Hence the private lessons," Finn said with a slight grimace. As they finished the session, Finn found himself reluctant to leave. Would it be helpful to know the specific song we'll be dancing to at the wedding?" Harper brightened. "Absolutely. If you can get a copy, we can practice with it directly." "I'll have my assistant send it over," Finn promised, then hesitated. "Actually, I could just send it myself. Do you mind giving me your number?" There was the briefest pause before Harper nodded, reciting her number as Finn entered it into his phone. It was a purely professional exchange, he told himself, ignoring the satisfaction he felt at having a direct line to contact her. That evening, Finn sat in his penthouse overlooking the Boston harbor, a glass of Macallan 18 in hand. His phone buzzed with an incoming email, quarterly reports from the European division that needed his review before tomorrow's board meeting. Instead of opening the email, Finn found himself scrolling to Harper's contact and composing a text with the song attachment. "Wedding dance song attached. Fair warning, it's Ed Sheeran, not my choice." "Finn," Harper's reply came moments later. "Perfect by Ed Sheeran. Classic choice for weddings. We'll work with it next week. Also not terrible for a beginner, steady tempo. You'll do fine." Finn smiled at his phone, then caught himself. It was a professional relationship. He was a client, she was providing a service. The warmth he felt at her confidence in him was simply appreciation for her skills as an instructor. Still, when he finally opened those quarterly reports, he found his mind drifting back to the studio, to Harper's encouraging smile and the feeling of her hand in his. By their third lesson, Finn arrived with 2 coffee cups in hand. "I wasn't sure how you take it," he said, offering one to Harper. "So I brought options." He held up a small paper bag containing various sweeteners and creamers. Harper looked surprised but pleased. "Black is perfect, actually." "Thank you." Their fingers brushed as she took the cup, and Finn felt an unexpected jolt at the contact. He cleared his throat. "I thought we could use the caffeine. I've been practicing at home, but I'm not sure I'm getting any better without supervision." "You've been practicing?" Harper asked, looking genuinely touched. "Most of my clients barely remember the steps between lessons." "Well, I have a reputation to maintain," Finn said lightly. "Can't have people saying Rowland doesn't commit to something he starts." Today they worked with the actual wedding song, and Finn found himself relaxing into the movements more naturally. When Harper suggested they try the full dance from beginning to end without stopping, he nodded confidently. As the music played, Finn guided Harper around the studio, his steps becoming more fluid with each turn. When he successfully executed a more complicated sequence they'd been working on, Harper's face lit up with delight. "That was perfect," she exclaimed as the song ended. In the moment of shared triumph, Finn found himself holding her gaze longer than necessary, suddenly aware of how close they were standing, his hand still at her waist. Harper stepped back first, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "At this rate, you'll be ready well before the wedding." "Maybe we should add some more complicated moves," Finn suggested, not quite ready to acknowledge why the idea of fewer lessons disappointed him. "Just to be sure I'm prepared for anything." Harper gave him a considering look. "We could incorporate a dip at the end." "It's showy but not too difficult with enough practice." "A dip sounds perfect," Finn agreed quickly. Learning the dip required even more physical contact, Harper explaining how he needed to support her weight and maintain his balance while lowering her gracefully. The first few attempts were awkward, with Finn either not supporting her firmly enough or holding her too stiffly. "You need to trust yourself," Harper said after a particularly ungraceful attempt. "And I need to trust you won't drop me. Let's try again." This time, when Finn took Harper in his arms for the final move, he focused on her eyes rather than the mechanics. The dip flowed naturally, Harper arching back with perfect trust as he held her securely. When he brought her back up, they were breathing slightly faster, and Finn became acutely aware of the scent of her perfume, something light and citrusy. That was. Harper began. "Better," Finn supplied. "Much better," she agreed, stepping back and checking her watch. "We've actually gone over our time. I'm sorry, I have another client coming in 10 minutes. Finn glanced at his own watch in surprise. "I didn't realize. Same time next week," Harper nodded, gathering her things. "And keep practicing that dip, it's all about confidence." As Finn left the studio, his phone rang with a call from Connor. "Hey, how's the dancing coming along? Please tell me you won't embarrass me in front of Elise's entire family." "I think I might surprise you," Finn replied, unable to keep the smile from his voice. "Well, that's a relief." "Listen, Elise and I were hoping you could come to dinner tomorrow night. There's someone she wants you to meet. Her cousin just moved to town." Finn felt an unexpected resistance to the idea. "Connor, if this is another setup." "She's great, man. Smart, beautiful, just finished her MBA at Wharton." "Your type completely." Finn hesitated, an image of Harper's laughing face flashing in his mind. "I'm pretty swamped this week with the Kingston acquisition." "It's dinner, Finn, not a weekend retreat. 7 o'clock at Soralina. Don't make me play the "It's my wedding" card," Finn sighed. "Fine." 7 o'clock. The next evening, Finn sat at the table with Connor, Elise, and her cousin Vanessa, who was indeed smart and beautiful, with long dark hair and an impressive knowledge of corporate finance. 6 months ago, he would have been completely engaged, probably already planning to ask her for a second date. Instead, he found himself making polite conversation while his mind continually drifted to his next dance lesson. When Vanessa mentioned having studied ballet in college, Finn immediately perked up. "You still dance?" he asked, his first genuinely interested question of the evening. Vanessa looked pleased at his sudden attention. "Not professionally, but I take classes sometimes." "Why?" "Are you interested in dance?" "I've been taking lessons," Finn admitted. "For the wedding." "From whom?" Vanessa asked. "Harper Hayes at the dance floor studio." "Harper Hayes?" Vanessa's eyebrows rose. "She's incredible." "Did you know she was with the Boston Ballet Company before an injury ended her career?" Finn shook his head, surprised. "She never mentioned that." "She was on track to become a principal dancer," Vanessa continued. "It was a big deal in the dance world when she had to step back." "She's an amazing teacher, though you're lucky to have her." The conversation moved on, but Finn found himself thinking about this new information. Harper had never mentioned her past as a professional dancer or the injury that had changed her career path. He wondered what else he didn't know about his dance instructor, whose hands had been guiding him through waltz steps for the past 3 weeks. By their 4th lesson, Finn arrived early, 2 coffees in hand again, this time having remembered that Harper took hers black. He found her already in the studio, moving gracefully to classical music playing softly from the speakers. She didn't notice him at first, lost in the dance, her movements fluid and precise in a way that made it clear she was no ordinary instructor. When she spotted him in the doorway, she stopped abruptly, looking almost embarrassed at being caught. "Sorry," Finn said, stepping into the room. "I didn't mean to interrupt." "You're early," Harper replied, switching off the music. "I was just warming up." Finn offered her the coffee. "You were with the Boston Ballet." Harper accepted the cup, her expression shifting subtly. "A long time ago. Vanessa, my friend's fiancée's cousin, mentioned it, said you were on track to become a principal dancer." Harper took a sip of coffee, her eyes not quite meeting his. "I was. Until I tore my ACL and had complications during recovery. Not exactly dinner party conversation for dance lessons." "I'm sorry," Finn said simply, recognizing the loss behind her matter-of-fact tone. Harper shrugged. "It happens. I found a new path." Teaching turned out to be surprisingly rewarding. She set down her coffee cup. "Shall we get started? I want to see if you've been practicing that dip." Finn recognized the deflection but didn't push. Instead, he moved to the center of the room, ready to demonstrate that he had indeed been practicing more diligently than he'd ever admit. As they moved through the routine, Finn found himself watching Harper more carefully, noticing the perfect precision of her movements, the muscle memory of years of professional training evident in every step. "You're still dancing beautifully," he said as they paused between runs of the routine. "I mean, I don't know much about ballet, but even I can see you haven't lost your skill." Harper's expression softened. "Thank you. I don't perform anymore, but I dance for myself sometimes. It's different now." "Different how?" "Less pressure, more joy," she said after a moment. "When it was my career, there was always the next role, the next performance to prepare for. Now when I dance, it's just for the pleasure of movement." Finn nodded, understanding more than she might expect. "I get that. There's a difference between doing something because it's expected and doing it because you want to." "Is that why you run a shipping empire?" Harper asked, her head tilted curiously. "Because it's expected or because you want to?" The question caught Finn off guard. Few people asked him about his motivations. Most were too interested in his success or his wealth to wonder about the person behind it. "Both, I guess," he answered honestly. "It was my father's company originally. I was expected to take over and I did. But I've built it into something different, something that's mine." Harper nodded. "So you found your own joy in it?" "Most days," Finn agreed with a smile. "Some days it's just spreadsheets and board meetings. Like some days teaching is just counting 5, 6, 7, 8 to people who can't tell their left foot from their right," Harper replied with a laugh. "Am I one of those people?" Finn asked, feigning offense. "Definitely not. You might be my most improved student ever, actually." The compliment shouldn't have pleased him as much as it did. High praise from a former principal dancer in training. "Let's see if you still deserve it," Harper challenged, restarting the music. "From the top." They danced the full routine twice more, ending with the dip that Finn now executed with confidence. As he brought Harper back up from the final dip, their faces were close, and for a moment he thought about closing that distance. Instead, he released her and stepped back. "How was that?" "Perfect," Harper said, and Finn wasn't sure if he imagined a slight breathlessness in her voice. "Your friend will be impressed." The mention of Connor's wedding seemed to reset the professional boundaries between them, and Finn nodded, checking his watch. "Same time next week," Harper hesitated. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about that. You're doing really well, honestly. You're more than ready for the wedding dance. We could probably cut back to just one more lesson for a final review the week before." Finn felt an immediate resistance to the suggestion. "I'd rather keep our regular schedule, if that works for you, of course." "Are you sure? You don't need—" "I'm still working on my confidence," Finn interrupted, "and there's no reason to change something that's working." Harper studied him for a moment, then nodded. "All right, same time next week." As Finn gathered his things to leave, he paused. "Harper, would you like to get dinner sometime? Not for dance talk, just dinner." The question hung between them, and Finn saw surprise register on Harper's face, followed by something more complicated. "I don't date clients, Finn," she said gently. Right, of course. Finn nodded, embarrassment heating his face. Professional boundaries, I understand. It's nothing personal, Harper added quickly. It's just a rule I've always kept. No need to explain, Finn assured her, moving toward the door. I'll see you next week. He left quickly, cursing himself for making things awkward. In the car, his driver waited silently as Finn stared out the window, annoyed at his own misstep. He'd misread the situation completely. The next morning, Finn threw himself into work, spending hours on the Kingston acquisition that had been demanding his attention. By evening, he'd nearly convinced himself that the whole situation with Harper was a non-issue, a momentary lapse in judgment that they could both professionally ignore. Then his phone buzzed with a text from her. Next lesson, we should work on your frame during turns. Also, my rule about not dating clients is only in effect while they're actively taking lessons. Finn read the message twice, a slow smile spreading across his face. He typed back, noted. Maybe we should discuss post-lesson plans during our next session. Harper's reply came promptly. Maybe we should. The week until his next lesson dragged impossibly slowly. Finn attended meetings, reviewed contracts, and finalized the Kingston deal, all while part of his mind remained fixed on Thursday afternoon. When he arrived at the studio, coffee cups in hand as had become their custom, Harper greeted him with a smile that seemed both professional and holding something more. I brought pastries this time, Finn said, lifting a small bag from a bakery near his office. Celebration for closing a big acquisition this week. Congratulations, Harper said, accepting both the coffee and a peek into the pastry bag, though I should probably save these for after we dance. They moved through the lesson with the same focus as always, Harper correcting his frame during turns as she'd mentioned in her text. But there was a new awareness between them, a current of anticipation that had nothing to do with waltz steps. As they completed the final run-through, ending with the now perfected dip, Finn held Harper a moment longer than necessary before bringing her upright. So, he said as the music ended, about those post-lesson plans. Harper set aside her water bottle. To be clear, you'll be my client until after the wedding. My rule still applies until then. Finn nodded. 3 more weeks. 3 more weeks, Harper confirmed, which gives you plenty of time to decide if you're actually interested in me or just the novelty of your dance instructor. The directness of her statement surprised a laugh out of Finn. That's fair. Though I should warn you, I've never been particularly interested in novelty. I tend to know what I want. And what exactly do you want, Finn Rowland? Harper asked, her green eyes holding his steadily. Dinner for starters, he answered. The day after the wedding, somewhere we can talk without counting steps. I'd like that, Harper said with a small smile. For the next 3 weeks, their lessons continued with a new undercurrent of anticipation. Finn found himself looking forward to each session more than ever, arriving with coffee and sometimes small gifts, a book Harper had mentioned wanting to read, artisanal chocolates from a shop near his office. They maintained their professional relationship, but their conversations expanded beyond dance technique to their lives outside the studio. Finn learned that Harper lived in Cambridge with a rescue cat named Pavlova, that she taught advanced ballet to children on weekends, and that she was saving to open her own dance school someday. In turn, he told her about growing up as the only child of a shipping magnate, about his love of sailing, and his plans to expand Rowland Maritime's humanitarian efforts, using their fleet to deliver aid during international crises. You never mention that in interviews, Harper observed during their second-to-last lesson. The humanitarian work, Finn shrugged. It's not about publicity. It's about finding your own joy in the company, Harper said, echoing their earlier conversation. Exactly. The day of Connor's wedding arrived with perfect early summer weather. Finn performed his best man duties flawlessly, standing beside his friend during the ceremony, delivering a toast that had the perfect balance of humor and sincerity, and finally, leading the wedding party in the first dance. As he guided Connor's sister around the dance floor, Finn caught sight of Harper standing at the edge of the ballroom. He'd invited her as his guest, but she declined, explaining that attending as his date while still technically his instructor would violate her personal rule. Instead, Connor and Elise had added her to the guest list as thanks for preparing their wedding party so well. When the formal first dance ended and other guests joined the floor, Finn made his way to Harper. She looked stunning in a deep blue dress, her honey-brown hair falling in loose waves around her shoulders. "You were perfect," she said, genuine pride in her voice. "Not a single misstep." "I had an excellent teacher," Finn replied, offering his hand. "Dance with me." Harper placed her hand in his, and as he led her onto the dance floor, the familiar position of their hands felt different now, not instructor and student, but simply a man and woman enjoying a dance together. "So," Finn said as they moved in perfect sync to the music, "about that dinner tomorrow." "Still interested?" Harper asked, a teasing light in her eyes. "More than ever," Finn assured her. "Though I should warn you, I'm not just interested in dinner." No, I'm thinking more along the lines of breakfast, lunch, and dinner, possibly for the foreseeable future." Harper laughed, the sound still as bright and genuine as the first day in the studio. "That's quite a meal plan, Mr. Rowland. I believe in being thorough, Miss Hayes." As the song ended, Finn executed a perfect dip, bringing Harper up slowly until their faces were inches apart. This time he didn't step back. "I'm not your client anymore," he murmured. "No, you're not," Harper agreed softly. When he kissed her, it felt like the natural conclusion to a dance they'd been performing for weeks, perfectly timed and yet still thrillingly unexpected. 1 year later, Finn stood at the altar of the small chapel, watching as Harper walked toward him in a flowing white gown. Their friends and family filled the pews, Connor and Elise among them, their 3-month-old daughter sleeping peacefully in Elise's arms. After the ceremony, at the reception in the garden of the estate Finn had purchased outside the city, their first dance as husband and wife was a waltz, the same one he had learned in those first lessons, though now with flourishes and variations they had choreographed together. "Did you ever imagine this?" Harper asked as he guided her through a turn. "When you walked into the studio that first day," Finn shook his head. "I was just trying not to step on anyone's toes at Connor's wedding, and now look at you dancing at your own." "Best investment I ever made," Finn said, pulling her closer. "Those dance lessons. Better than your shipping empire," Harper teased. "The company's worth billions," Finn acknowledged, "but you, Mrs. Rowland, are priceless." As their dance ended, Finn dipped Harper low, bringing her back up for a kiss that drew applause from their guests. And when the music changed and others joined them on the dance floor, they stayed in each other's arms, swaying to a rhythm that was perfectly, uniquely their own. Later that night, as they prepared to leave for their honeymoon in the Greek islands, Harper linked her fingers with Finn's. "You know what I was thinking? The studio space next to the dance floor just became available. It would be perfect for the school I want to start." Finn smiled, recognizing the tentative hope in her voice. "I think it sounds like our next project." "Our project?" Harper raised an eyebrow. "You want to be involved in a dance school." "I want to be involved in everything that matters to you," Finn said simply. "Besides, I have some experience with dance now. I could teach the How Not to Step on Your Partner's Toes class." Harper laughed, leaning up to kiss him. "From reluctant student to dance instructor, I've created a monster." "You've created a partner," Finn corrected, pulling her close. "For every dance, in every studio, for all the years to come." And as they left for their honeymoon, Finn reflected that of all the steps he'd learned from Harper, the most important hadn't been dance steps at all, but the steps that had led him from that first awkward lesson to this moment, steps toward vulnerability, toward joy, toward a love that moved with perfect rhythm, creating a dance entirely their own.